And at this time, for our mayor candidates will come forward. Like I said, I was more worried about the water and I forgot the check. So, okay, and then John's had a little break. So thanks again. And like I said, I don't know, everybody was talking, but I do really appreciate, we had 100% participation with the council candidates. Every person was here. And I really appreciate that they did take time out of their schedule and rearrange things to be here. So let's just give each of them that are willing to be here and put their name out there one more hand.
All right, we'll move on to the mayoral portion of our festivities this evening, and a little different in terms of the formatics in that we have 3 minutes for opening statements and we'll have 2 minutes for the questions and then a 3-minute closing statement for the candidates. And so we will start first of all with opening statements from Jim Lennep.
Thank you for your attendance and your attention. I greatly appreciate your interest in our community and in this election. There are 3 main reasons why I am running for mayor. They are jobs, spending, and how we get along with each other, for the tone starts at the top. When we talk about jobs, we talk about the economy and how we grow it. When we talk about spending, it's how we plan for it and how we control it. When we talk about getting along, it's how we treat one another and how we treat our employees, our board members, and so on. Our local economy has 3 parts. Cummins with 5,500 jobs. We have 30 foreign employers with 5,500 jobs, same number. And then there's everything else. Our mayors, prior to Mayor Brown, traveled across the oceans and around the country in search of those 30 foreign employers. Their efforts have paid off handsomely. Mayor Brown has chosen not to participate in those recruitment efforts, and the results are predictable. In her 3 years, no new recruited employers. My second reason for running is to control spending and to plan better for it. We need to be more efficient. Some of you who have heard me speak already, you've heard me mention that we should employ 6 Sigma techniques. We should also plan better when budgeting, and we should consider our capital needs more than 1 year at a time. In January, 5 days after entering our new budget year, Mayor Brown came to the council and asked for $500,000 to pay for police cameras and sewer repairs. Not 2 months before, we had adopted a budget without a word on these items. We just recently appropriated over $7 million for road repairs. That money didn't magically appear December 31. It had built up over several prior years and should have been spent accordingly. We've also been presented with a lengthy list of other projects. The Crump at $10 million, the amphitheater at Mill Race at $4 million, the State Street project, which I support, for $7.5 million, a soccer complex at the airport, a railroad spur at Wellsboro, and a bridge around the pump house, $1 to $2 million. At the same time, we're told that our deferred road maintenance is north of $20 million. How are we to determine which of these additional projects we can afford and which need to take a back seat to roads? We need a plan, a multi-year plan, plain and simple. The third leg of the stool is how we get along with each other. As I've said, the tone starts at the top. Among our city's department heads, turnover has reached nearly 100%. Sometimes the cost of turnover is hidden, sometimes it bubbles up to the top. Recently, we saw where the city demolished a residence on 9th Street without having talked to the owners or following our own procedures. I believe turnover had something to do with that. Our city needs to be a stable employer, and our employees need to be well led. For those reasons, I'm running for mayor.
3-minute opening statement.
Mary, the keeper of the, okay.
She's right there.
Yellow's 20 seconds? Okay, great. Good evening, and thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you to the Republican Ladies League for hosting this and WCSI for moderating it. Just over 3 years ago, the voters handed me the honor of my lifetime by electing me to be the mayor of my hometown, which I have deep passion for. I was elected with a mandate for change. I had promised to make our city government more open and transparent, to better serve your priorities and to protect your tax dollars. and I'm proud to say I've kept my promises. I've made the tough calls to get our fiscal house in order. I've ensured accountability, and we've delivered tremendous results the last 3 years. I've brought unprecedented transparency to City Hall, namely dissolving CDI and not spending millions of dollars behind closed doors and in secret, live casting and all of our public meetings and offering them on demand on our website. I've led the development of a community-wide vision and plan called Advance Columbus. It's a comprehensive roadmap for us as a community to continually advance our quality of life and leave no one behind. I'll highlight just a few of the things we've done at the city to advance Columbus according to that plan the last 3 years. Our police officers have never been more productive, community policing with neighbors, and cracking down on the dealers of dangerous drugs in our community. Our efforts are paying off. Property crime is down 23%. Violent crime has been cut nearly in half. We've improved our ambulance service and at the same time eliminated its nearly $1 million a year tax subsidy. We've restored stability to our most challenged neighborhoods, making them significantly safer and prouder. We've encouraged record job growth. We're at all-time record highs for the number of jobs in the community and the number of people employed in our community. We've made record-breaking investments in repairing our streets, long-deferred investments. We've inherited about $30 million of deferred investment just in our roads. To date, we've spent almost $10 million. This year we'll spend almost $8 million repairing our streets, doing the work as fast as our engineering department can manage it. We've made record-breaking investments in our parks facilities, again, making up for years of deferred investment. And there are many other achievements that I don't have time for, but they run the gamut of 100% healthy adoption rate of healthy dogs for 3 years running at Animal Care Services, and finally offering curbside recycling for no additional fees. We've done it by we've done all of this. We've increased our cash reserves by about $16 million. That's 70% in 3 years. And best of all, we've done it with no new debt, no new taxes, and without the trash fees.
All right, first question will be to Mayor Brown, and the question is, what has to occur to increase business investment in Columbus?
The number one thing we need to do is make sure that our existing employers and any businesses that might be looking for a place to locate, that they have the resources they need to be successful, prosper, and grow. And the number one bottleneck currently is a skilled and ready workforce. So, like I said, we're at all-time highs for the number of people employed in the community, the number of jobs in the community. We're a net importer of labor of 10,000 people. We have a shortage of skilled and job-ready workers. And we can help. I have some ideas around that. I don't have a 2-minute limit. We also need to provide them with infrastructure. We recently invested in reconstructing roads down in our industrial park last year. Our businesses we're doing backflips. We're looking at making infrastructure investments in neglected and struggling areas, commercial areas like State Street. We also need to make sure that our businesses and residential development can actually grow outside our corporate boundaries. We are literally bursting at the seam. Our population growth has been so great because of our job growth. And so we recently, at the city, developed for the first time ever a strategic growth plan. And so we are planning and we can guide development for residential, commercial, industrial, according to that plan to minimize costly sprawl in terms of infrastructure and public safety services. And the last thing we're doing is working on a public-private partnership right now to develop a new industrial park because we are out of shovel-ready land right now.
Jim Linnup, again the question, what has to occur to increase business investment in Columbus?
I think we need to do two main things. One is to lead and one is to collaborate. When we talk about leading, what we're talking about doing is the mayor getting out in front of potential employers and telling the Columbus story anywhere, everywhere, all over the place, all the time. So the mayor has to lead that effort, be front and center. The second thing we've got to do is collaborate. We've got to work with the people around us. And in particular, we have to work with the Economic Development Board. There's a group here in town. It's 90% privately funded. We get a tremendous bang for our buck. And what we need to be able to do is work with them. A year or so ago, maybe even a little bit longer, they came up with the thought of trying to develop the Willsboro Airport. You know, try to make something out there more than a cornfield, because we do need shovel-ready land. It's probably our primary drawback with respect to bringing new companies into town. The second thing we need to do when we collaborate with the Economic Development Board is listen to some of the studies that they have commissioned. That not too long ago, they did a competitive realities report that came to us and told us what types of industries would be worthwhile for us to investigate. You know, as we've mentioned before, we've got a little bit of a labor issue right now, and so continuing in manufacturing may not be the best, or automotive manufacturing may not be the best use of our time or our resources. But there are other kinds of manufacturing that we could pursue. Pharmaceutical comes to mind. Other areas that we could pursue would be to build on assets that we've got already in place. Higher education and healthcare are two of those. But partnering with existing businesses, partnering with the Economic Development Board, and just getting out and leading. You know, just tell the Columbus story to anybody who'll listen, no matter where they happen to be. Thank you.
We'll keep the microphone here for the second question. What areas of public safety do you think need improved in Columbus, and how can that be accomplished? Again, 2 minutes.
Areas of public safety that need to be improved, I would continue to think that we can handle our neighborhood policing as well as we're doing. Excuse me for stammering a little bit, but what I'm wanting to try to get to is the neighborhood watch efforts that we've got. We've got one underway in the old downtown historic district, and I think that we need to be able to help those people do what they want to do and then build that out to other neighborhoods across the country. Across the city. We'll just stop at the city limits. But I think we also need to be able to partner not only with the police folks that we've got, but the folks in the county, you know, the sheriff's office, making sure that all of us can communicate with one another and that all of us have the training and the assets that we need to be effective crime stoppers and effective crime preventers. The other part that I would want to get at too is something that sort of speaks with respect to prevention, and that is that when we talk about crime, generally either poverty or drug abuse have something to do with that. And so we'd want to back up a few steps and try to figure out the source, and to the extent that we can do things that would alleviate drug use, drug abuse, we want to pursue those. With the extent that poverty causes some of the crime that we deal with, then I think we're back to the discussion we had a moment ago with respect to jobs. Thank you.
Kristen Brown, the question, what areas of public safety do you think need improved in Columbus, and how can that be accomplished?
Well, actually, I think we've done an amazing job improving public safety the last 3 years. We currently have more police officers on our street than any time in our history. And as I said, they're being incredibly productive. They are very concentrated on going after the dealers of dangerous drugs in our community, primarily meth and heroin. We've partnered just in January with the new sheriff. We've got a joint narcotics task force unit and the prosecutor's office. That's the first time the sheriff's office has dedicated resources, and we come together and we're working as a team full time. So that's paying dividends already. We are continuing to accelerate our community policing efforts. We have a dedicated community policing unit that works. They spend their time full time preventing crime rather than reacting to it. All of our officers are held accountable to proactive community police patrolling. So our community policing efforts have increased over 500% in the last 3 years. We introduced, as I said earlier, we've improved our ambulance service. We're far exceeding national standards for response times now. We have more firefighters certified as paramedics than at any time in our history. We made an enormous investment last year, and why that's good is our firefighters respond to every EMS, priority 1 EMS run. So as a paramedic, they're able to administer life-saving techniques in medicine. We have, in terms of natural disaster, the greatest threat to our community is flooding. Earlier was the comment says we haven't done anything about flooding. That's not true. We rolled out at the 5th year anniversary of the flood a comprehensive flood management and response plan that enables us with some stream gauges upstream and some of the modeling we've done. We know either days in advance, in some cases on our smaller streams, hours in advance, where and when we'll flood. Okay.
Thank you. Third question, we'll keep the microphone right here. Kristen Brown, why are parks important for the city and how would you improve them?
Okay. Well, we have an outstanding park system that is important for a number of reasons. One, it promotes healthy lifestyles. They're great places for our families to gather and create lifelong memories. Our park system, including the people trails, are also an important amenity to retain and attract talent in the community. So I think our existing park system is extremely important, and that's why, along with our other critical infrastructure, our roads, we estimated all of our deferred investment in our parks when I first came into office, and we've made record-breaking investments in parks. Close to, by the end of this year, we'll have close to $6 million of public and private money, really reversing years of deterioration in the park system. Prior to me coming on board, on average, the budget for parks capital was to maintain our existing facilities was about $60,000. And so again, just in public money, we'll put in, I believe, close to $4 million at the end of the year just to maintain those and improve the existing facilities. So it's been a very high priority of mine.
Jim, why are parks important for the city and how would you improve them?
As Mayor Brown said, you know, parks relate directly to the quality of life that we have. You know, parks are one of the most visible things that we can show when some company comes to town or when a new business prospect comes to town. One of the things you learn after those people have been here is that they've probably been here when you didn't know it. You know, they came unannounced, and they might come unannounced to meet some people, to talk to a realtor and see some houses, or just to go stroll through some of our public areas, which includes our parks. So they're vitally important, not only for economic development, but just for the fun, you know, that we have here. I grew up I grew up down on 3rd Street, but spent about 4 or 5 years living up here on 23rd Street. And so I had an opportunity to come down here and enjoy this facility when I was a kid. And when we drove up here, our son was with us, and he pointed out, well, that's the place, you know, that I did such and so. And I didn't really want to hear about that, but that's okay, because it's part of what you remember when, you know, you reflect back on your childhood. In terms of what we can improve, it goes back to what I tried to talk about in the opening remarks, and that is a plan. We've got to have a consistent plan that we follow year in, year out, and we can't always, you know, make sure that well, excuse me for getting ahead of myself. We need to have a plan. We need to identify the plan, bring it out to people, let them know what the plan is, and then try to tell them that we're going to follow this and give them an opportunity to check to see whether we are. And if we're not following it, if we're falling behind, then hold us accountable. You know, that's, you know, I'm completely comfortable with that. We've had significant improvements placed into this building out at Hamilton. I think we've got some more work to do at Clifty Creek. I know the restrooms at Lincoln are, you know, a particular problem for us, and so there continue to be challenges, but we'll just identify them and put them on the schedule. We'll get them done. Thank you.
Keep the microphone right here. We'll go to question 4. Again, 2-minute response. Jim, what changes can we start making today to improve Columbus in 2025?
Well, as I said earlier, I think it's important for us to lead and it's important for us to collaborate. One of the things that we have to understand is that we're not an island. You know, when I went to Japan and China last fall, I got a chance to know the mayors in Seymour, the mayors in North Vernon, or the mayors of Seymour and North Vernon. Great guys, and they have a desire to want to work with us. You know, they don't necessarily say it, but they sort of view Columbus as a leader, and they look to us to set the tone. When I had the chance to talk to the mayor of Seymour recently, the subject of the railroad came up. And, you know, he had some ideas that we might be able to pursue. And so the opportunity here is for us to work with our regional partners, because if you're going to go out to 2025, 10 years from now, you know, I don't know how close we're going to be with some of our housing to the county limits, but we certainly are going to be spilling over with respect to economic activity. And we hold the opportunity here for a lot of the, what I might call, you got to be careful how you phrase this, but the higher end type activities, higher education and healthcare, and even some of the cultural activities. You know, they don't have Philharmonics and you know, those other places. So there's an opportunity for us to work together to help them develop their communities, and we'll benefit in the long run as well. I think we want to focus, though, there's three things that I would want us to focus on. One is to, in 2025, to be a safe community, to be a community with excellent educational opportunities for anybody at any age. And I think we want to have one where there's economic opportunities. You know, I've got 2 children. I'd like for them to be able to do what I did, which was to come back home. But what I found when I tried to come back home was it is heavily dependent on economic opportunity. So those are the 3 things I'd work towards, and I partner with our regional friends. Thank you.
Kristen, what changes can we start making today to improve Columbus in 2025?
Well, we've identified those in the planning process that I led called Advance Columbus. We have a long-term vision to be the very best community of its size in the country. And we have 4 goals: to continue to advance our infrastructure, to advance economic prosperity and well-paying jobs, to advance opportunities for all, leave no one behind, and to continue to advance the safety and health of the community. And we've identified 10 goals that there are public-private coalitions working on to do those things. But a couple that come to the highest level, I think one is the skills and availability of our workforce is not meeting the demands of our employers. So I think we need to invest more in workforce development. The Community Education Coalition is doing a lot. I think we can continue to do more as a community. We need to continue redevelopment in areas of our community other than downtown, continue downtown development, and we're doing that. We just sold the pump house. We're looking at developing some riverfront property that the city owns, but we're looking at other areas too that have been neglected or have lacked investment, like State Street, and we've got a great plan, and I voted on the first implementation of that last month. We've had the last couple of years develop a great public-private partnership to redevelop the Golden Foundry site, a decade-old source of blight in the center of our city with good, affordable housing. We also, the last thing, I guess, that I'll mention is we really need to work on the drug problem. Law enforcement we're chasing our tails until the demand for these dangerous drugs is curtailed. So we need to invest more as a community in treatment, rehabilitative services, and prevention services.
Thank you. 5th question, we'll start with you, Kristen. What do you see in our city that makes Columbus different from other Indiana cities?
Well, one is our economic prosperity. We have, as I said, we've got tremendous job growth, and that's a function of great employers that are doing extremely well. The pay is better than the rest of the state. On average, our personal per capita income is higher, our average wages are higher. We have incredible amenities, obviously, that have been built up through the years, not just our architecture, but our park system we mentioned. We have a very diverse population for a community our size that we continue to embrace and welcome. And we have a strong community spirit where the community really loves to come together in times of celebration in times of need. I think our philanthropy is exceptional in the state. I know our United Way either can raise $50 per capita, which is, I think, the highest or very close to it in the state. So we're a very, very giving community. I would sum it up by saying Columbus is truly a remarkable combination of place and people.
Jim, what do you see in our city that makes Columbus different from other Indiana cities?
Well, there are several things that come to mind, and obviously the one that comes to mind most quickly is the presence of Cummins. We are very fortunate to have a company like that in our community. They're a large company and presently very profitable, and they got a conscience. I mean, it was their willingness to step forward and provide the initial funding that allowed us to adopt recycling. You know, they understood the value of living in a green community, and they were willing to step up and make the initial capital contributions that made that whole program possible. Sort of as a backdrop, or just take one step back from that, we've probably had the most successful economic development effort of any community in Indiana for, I'll say, the last 40 years. It comes from collaboration and partnership between the mayor's office and, again, that privately funded organization I mentioned earlier called Economic Development. We've been not shy about going out and recruiting other companies. As I said when I started, you've got 30 foreign employers that employ 5,500. It's like having a second Cummins. There are many companies or many communities in Indiana that would love to have an NTN or an NK or any one of those. We've got several. And the fact that they're here and that they were recruited here is what makes us, is a big part of what makes us special. The third thing I would offer is the public-private partnership that we seem to have been able to start here in Columbus, or at least offer as an example to others. You know, some of the examples, the Commons, was privately funded for about half of its cost. Millrace Center was privately funded for about 75% of its cost. A good portion of our parks facilities, the softball diamonds and some of the others, have been paid for through private funding or the bed tax that the hotel folks pay. I think too, with respect to that private partnership, public-private partnership, there's an essence of just being able to get along, to not hold a grudge. We may disagree from time to time, but we do get along. Thank you. Yep. Okay.
Time for closing statements, and our candidates will have 3 minutes for a closing statement. Jim Lunnep.
Before I got involved in city government, I got involved in the city. I've lived here now since coming back to Columbus for about 30 years. And I got involved in the business community. I ran a business that provided services to business. I got involved at church and the kids' school, charitable organizations, sometimes as a leader and sometimes just as a doer. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to coach a girls' 5th grade basketball team. I recommend it. It's fun. Even though I was only the second assistant coach, I got to mention that. But part of what you learn when you do that is a little bit of what it's like and what's required to live in a small town. Because in a large part with a small town, you're in a fishbowl. People tend to watch. They see what you do. They watch how you act. A year or better ago, we had an executive director here at the Parks Department who had, the department had won some awards, had raised a considerable amount of funds to renovate some of our parks facilities. And our mayor decided that, for reasons that still don't make sense to me, that he should be demoted. And so she put him a couple rungs down on the ladder and cut his pay in half. When you do something like that and you're in the fishbowl, other people notice. Other employees notice. The people in our community notice. The people outside our community notice. And it has an effect on how they view us. We said a minute ago that Columbus was special. Well, that kind of leadership is not what got us special. And what we need to be able to do is to provide good leadership to our employees, to keep them energized and excited about their jobs. Because when they see something like that, it's not lost on them. As I said before, one of the things I'm interested in doing is trying to promote the community, tell the Columbus story to anyone who'll listen, bring as many jobs as we can here. We can never take our foot off the gas. We have always got to be promoting Columbus, because you can never tell when the next Arvin or the next SAPS or the next Irwin Financial is going to come hit us. We've got to be prepared. The last thing I talked about is controlling spending, coming up with a plan that simply lays out what we intend to do. I would say for 3 years. I heard 5 years a lot earlier, but in my experience in business, it's really difficult to go much beyond 3, or that's been my experience. So what I want to do for you, I'd like to be your mayor, and what I'd like to do for you is to help tell the Columbus story, recruit employers, and continue the investment that we've got, but that has funded our way of life here. I want to help us control spending, do so in a transparent and planned manner. And then I want to work on how we get along, because like I said earlier, the tone starts at the top. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Kristen Brown, closing statement, 3 minutes.
As I said earlier, and I think everyone agrees that Columbus truly is a special place, a remarkable combination of people and place. But when I was elected 4 years ago, people were not happy with the way their government was operating. There was a very real sense that City Hall had become an insiders club, and that decisions that impact our future, all of our futures, were being made behind closed doors by a select few people. And my campaign promise 4 years ago was to reject politics as usual, and I pledged to serve the interests of all residents and all businesses and to work with everyone. And I've kept that promise. There has never been a group of well-connected people standing behind me calling the shots behind the scenes. The voice of the people from every walk of life, blue collar to white collar, from every neighborhood, from the west side to the east side, carries the same weight at City Hall. I've changed the way city government does business to better serve you, and I have not let politics get in the way of progress. The path of least resistance for me would have been get along politics, business as usual, but that is not what I was elected to do. I promised to protect the taxpayers. I've done that. I know who I work for, and I work for the people who write the checks to city government and not the people who cash the checks. We've returned the power of city government to you, the people. We're governing for the common good. We're getting the most for your dollar. We're ensuring accountability. We're delivering unprecedented results, and we're making outstanding progress on a plan for our future. I'm running for re-election because I have a deep passion for my hometown and the people of my hometown, and I think we're on the right path. I'm confident we're on the right path. Our community is safer. We're making our neighborhoods stronger and prouder. We're promoting record job growth. We're fixing our streets. We're fixing and improving our parks, and we're doing it very fiscally responsibly. No trash fees, no new taxes, no new debt. So we've made great progress. Think about the accomplishments of the last 3 years. Yes, there have been changes. We're laying a foundation currently for an even brighter future for Columbus. And I promise you that if I'm reelected, I will continue to advance our great city and do so with unmatched enthusiasm and energy, fueled by your confidence and support once again. I thank you again for attending and listening, and I humbly ask for your vote, either in early voting or on May 5th. Thank you.
I want to thank the Republican Ladies League again for putting on this event, and I want to thank all of you for being very attentive and supportive of this effort this evening, and also thanks to our two mayoral candidates up front here. Please give yourself a round of applause. Thank you.
I just want you to know, if you could see this, how complicated this was, and what a great job John Foster did for us. I think he did. Again, it wasn't easy, and he did a fantastic job, and we really appreciate it. I have a couple announcements for you. I do want to remind you that the last day to register to vote, if you're a resident of the city, if you've moved in or moved somewhere differently in the city, your last day is April the 6th, Monday, April 6th, at the voter registration office or indianavoter.com. You can also then, after you register to vote, you can't the very next day come in and vote, but you could go to the clerk's office and vote what we call early absentee voting. I like, people are always saying vote early, vote often. That's a horrible thing to say. You vote early, but only once. But voting does start April the 7th, Tuesday, April 7th, at the clerk's office. I want to remind everybody that vote centers are a new thing that you will experience this election. There's no wrong place to vote, but your old precinct may not be a voting location. So I know our voter registration office and the election office and the clerk are doing a great job trying to get that information out, but don't forget, talk to your neighbors and be checking into the website and seeing the map and locating all that. I want to tell you another important date coming up, another opportunity that you can meet with all these great candidates is April the 8th. The Republican Party is having their local Lincoln Day dinner, and so it'll be out at the fairgrounds. It starts at 5:30 to 6:30 is the social hour, then 6:30 on is the evening. Speaker Brian Bosma is our speaker this year, and tickets are $30, so you can still see Barb Hackman, our party chair, sitting right here, and she will be happy to give you a ticket and take your money tonight if you're interested in that, or I think maybe Fisher's Flower Basket as well. Is there any other location that they can pick those up? Other members of the party or even maybe some candidates might have tickets. So if you're interested in that, please contact us and let us know. I also did see Senator Greg Walker, bless his heart, walked into the room late. Yes, he's right there. Let's give him a hand again. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for We so appreciate everything he does for us and our community. I want to thank all the candidates again for coming out tonight. I know a lot of them brought some brochures, some T-shirts, some yard signs, and things like that. So please stop by the table and pick up something of your new favorite candidate tonight. And we do so much appreciate each of you coming and participating. I also want to thank again one last time John Foster and White River Broadcasting, WCSI, KKG. Am I forgetting any other entities of that? The River. 404.9. All those great things with White River. We really appreciate it and can't thank them enough, sorry. And then Q-Mix as well for being here tonight. I think that's Corn Country and Mojo. So anyway, and I think maybe the Republic of Reporters here. So we do appreciate all of our media outlets. So thanks for coming tonight. Thank you for attending. I'm sure the candidates can stick around just a little because we're actually early. Thank you, Mary Schaefer and Ann Ogle for a terrific job in doing all that. So. Thank you for your patience and time. Don't forget to vote if you live in this city and educate yourself further. So thank you. Have a great day.
Nice job. Nice job.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.